Good evening, Hatters. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm so glad to have each and every one of you here with us as we get to know our new president, Dr. Chris Rolke. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rena Tovar Arroyo, and I am the Assistant Vice President for Development for Parent and Alumni Engagement. Tonight, we have an amazing group of wonderful Hatters, all of you on the line joining us for this webinar. I was really excited when I looked at the guest list for this evening because I saw that we had so many wonderful friends of Stetson with us, and it's going to be a really wonderful evening. So we have folks getting in on the call here. It's going to take a few minutes, a few seconds actually, to load up everyone who's with us. So as we wait for everyone to get connected into the webinar, we're going to do a fun poll, just so that we can learn a little bit more about all of you who are here with us on the webinar. So we are going to drop a poll into the screen here. Thank you, Julie and Megan on the other side. So this is a quick poll to let us know who's with us. So for Hatter alumni, which college or school did you graduate from? And if you're a Hatter parent, which college or school will your student or did your student graduate from? So are you College of Law, Arts and Sciences, School of Business, or School of Music? And in just a minute, we're going to see the results from our poll. There we go. Okay, so tonight we have, of our attendees, 6% College of Law, 68% College of Arts and Sciences. We have 19% School of Business and 6% School of Music. I know some of you folks have some crossover there too, but thanks so much for sharing your affiliation with Stetson. And we are going to do one more thing to get you ready and geared up for the webinar. So what we'd like you to do is find your chat function with the webinar. And those of you who are Hatter alumni, give a shout out to your graduating class. Let people know what year you graduated from Stetson, and Hatter parents, do the same thing for your students' graduating class year. So please join in the fun there. And we'll see, oh, we got Dean is here. We have lots of folks on the line. Go ahead and type in what class year that you graduated from so we can see who's in the house. All right, we have some earlier class years, 1971. We've got in the 60s, we've got folks from the 80s, we have from 2020, 1963, 2019, 2018, 22, we have 04, 76. This is great. We have an excellent group of people tonight, and we're so glad to have you here. 1978, 1990. Awesome. Welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. Okay, so let's get this webinar underway. Let's get started. This evening's webinar is a really wonderful opportunity for each of you to get to know our new president. Some of you did submit questions for Dr. Rolke when you registered for tonight, so he will be answering those questions when we get to the Q&A portion. But also remember, you have the opportunity to submit questions now in that chat box that you just used. You can submit those throughout the evening, and we will try to get to all of them before our end time at 7 o'clock this evening. We do have a few other panelists with us this evening on the webinar who are going to give a short welcome and update. And so I'll introduce those folks now, and then they'll go through the webinar together with us. So first of all, we will have Dean Michel Alexandre from Stetson University's College of Law. We have Raynell Tinsley Mason, the class of 2000 and our current alumni board president. We have Tara Hamilton, our executive director of University Development Initiatives. And of course, please join me in giving a warm Hatter welcome for Dr. Christopher Rolke, who became Stetson's 10th president on July 1st, 2020. Welcome, Dr. Rolke.
Rena, thank you very much, and also my thanks to the colleagues on the call. There's also a number of people behind the scenes that have done extraordinary work on these meet and greets with alumni. As I've said publicly a number of times, it's the greatest honor and privilege of my professional life to be serving as Stetson's 10th president. It certainly has been an extraordinary transition to this community. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I'm eager for the opportunity to get to know each of you better. In a normal transition, I probably would have had lots of regional events already, hopped on the plane or train or automobile and seen you in person. I did get a chance to see some of you in New York or Washington prior to becoming president. And I look forward to brighter days when this pandemic is under control. We can see each other face to face. But in the meantime, I want you to rest assured that things are going very, very well here at Stetson University, both on the DeLand campus and at the College of Law. And I'm very privileged to be serving in this capacity because this is a pretty special place, I have to say. I certainly knew that through the presidential search process, but now I've been able to truly live it. And despite the global challenges that we are confronting, this is a community that is resilient, it's creative, it's kind, it's thoughtful, and when it's presented with challenges, we step up as Hatters to those challenges. I look forward to discussing those things in more detail about midway through the webinar. We do want to have about a half an hour, if we can, for Q&A. So let me echo what Rena said. If you have questions that are on your mind, please do put them in the chat box. But let's go through some of our wonderful colleagues here and their presentations. It's my pleasure to turn now to Michelle Alexandre, Dean of the College of Law, who is not only the Dean of the College of Law, but has also been an extraordinary partner to me and to my other senior colleagues in trying to navigate this once-in-a-century set of challenges. And for that, Michelle, I will always be grateful. Michelle?
Thank you, President Roelke. And thank you for stewarding us through this period of our history. I really do think that the 10th president will have an amazing trajectory, and you will contribute so much to our institution. Dr. Roelke is absolutely right. This is a special place. I am now rounding up my year and a half at the College of Law, and I cannot be more thrilled to be part of this institution and to work on behalf of it with all of our amazing, talented community. You may know from our press release, and I want to be sure that you hug a College of Law staff member, faculty member, student virtually when you see them. We are actually right here in full force with 75% of our first year taking face-to-face classes. We are offering the gamut, face-to-face, hybrid, and remote instruction. And I'm thankful to say that the community at large has been hard at work implementing the layers and safety measures that we have in place, making us stronger. And can you believe it? We are approaching very steadily the end of the semester in November. So I can't be more proud. I couldn't be more proud of this institution. We also welcome new faculty member this year. We have a new head of advocacy, Professor Liz Bowles. We have a new head of bar prep and academic support, Professor Alicia Jackson, and we have a new director of the library, of the law library, that I know you have fun memories of, and this is Professor Roy Belesti. Please, if you have a chance to connect with us virtually again, or right when things change, to come over to the law school. I can't wait for you to meet them. We also issued and formalized a new business law concentration this past year. As a practice-ready law school, the fact that we can offer a comprehensive menu of training to our students and having the business law be the latest initiative for us is just, it just thrills me beyond measure. Our students already are enrolled in this new concentration. And so look out for us on the ground for you business law experts to get to enroll you in providing expertise or whatever support our students may need. We continue to be thankful for you. And lastly, as you may know, many of our graduates, a big portion of our graduates, they will sit for the bar exam next week. That bar exam has been delayed. You may have seen a letter written by me and our Board of Trustees member, Lala Jaber, and our former chair of the Board of Overseers, Ria Law, really urging all employers in legal profession to give the 2020 graduates a chance at employment, to make sure that their qualifications be really seized, and the opportunity for them to shine in your various sectors of employment, that opportunity be really given to them, because they are talented, they are unique, and that class has such resilience and such insight into what it is to be a Stetson lawyer and to be practice ready, that I think they will do you proud in whatever they do. And as you may also know, to support them and to support the other 4 classes in the building, the 3L full-time student, and who we call affectionately the 4 Ls, the part-time students, to support them and the 2020 graduates, we have launched a student emergency fund. That fund was able to provide support to the graduates throughout the spring and in the summer. And we are relaunching it again because the 2020 graduates and all law students continue to be impacted by COVID-19, all the way down to their ability to find a place to live and their ability to really support themselves to the basic necessities of life. We are so thankful for all the support you provided them and to us. We couldn't do this work without you. You are our 5th element, our cornerstone, and I'm so glad I got to meet you on the East Coast, and I can't wait to see you again. Now I will turn to Rena.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for your leadership, and we're all so proud of our crown jewel, the College of Law. We appreciate it. Now we're going to have a quick update from our alumni and parent engagement area. Our alumni board president, Raynell Tinsley Mason, who is from the class of 2000, is going to give an update. She is our current alumni board president. Welcome, Raynell.
Thank you, Rena. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for this opportunity this evening. I'm going to provide a brief update for the Alumni and Engagement Office. So as you can imagine, we were all excited to travel the country this year to see you in person, but alas, COVID. So with safe social distancing parameters in place, the Alumni and Parent Engagement Office has launched a series of digital events and programs to help our Hatter alumni and parents stay engaged and connected. These virtual initiatives give you an easy access to learn, connect, and engage with the others, and also opportunities for you to help and support current students. The team is always here to support you. The Meadows Alumni House door is always open, though currently it's a virtual door, but regardless, it's always open. Remember, you're among Stetson's Hatter network of more than 42,000 alumni. Quickly, I'll review some of our upcoming programs, and we hope that you're able to participate. First, this year, due to COVID, we're going to host a virtual homecoming, November 6th through 8th. Some of the features and activities will include a dean's panel, academic, multicultural, athletic, and social virtual workshops, and of course, time to reminisce with your old friends. If your class ends in a 0 or a 5, this year is all about you, and we'll be celebrating you with a virtual class reunion. Don't forget to join us for a nostalgic kickoff concert on Thursday, November 5th, to launch the weekend of events. More information will be sent out with schedules and registration, so please watch for these in your inbox or in your mailbox. Regional events. are ongoing continuously with all of that we have going on. In addition to general virtual events, such as our Facebook Live concerts, the Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement will continue hosting virtual events across the country in partnership with the Alumni Board members. These events give alumni and parents the opportunity to participate in speed networking, trivia nights, fundraising, academic-based events, and much more. We promote these every Sunday on our social accounts, so make sure to give us a follow. Right now, we'll put the URLs in the question box so that you have those and can put those in your phone or in your favorite apps. Webinar Wednesdays is another event that the office is taken with. If you're looking for the opportunity to give back to our current students, Webinar Wednesday is for you. This program is geared towards students and young alums as they begin to navigate life after Stetson and in the workplace. Some webinar topics alumni have presented include professional development, freelancing, and life as a digital nomad, creating self-security, entrepreneurship, and many more. If you're interested in hosting a workshop for students on an industry, career, lifestyle, or an academic topic, please reach out to our office. We'd love to have you. Leadership Stetson. Yes, we're already looking at 2021, so January 28th to 30th. I know it seems far out, but hopefully it's here faster than we would like. This program is designated to increase the number of Stetson alumni and parents actively engaged with the university to develop the next generation of Stetson's leadership. Participants have the chance to learn more about Stetson, including the internal and external forces that affect the university's direction. There's also a dean's panel, discussions with the university administrators, faculty and students, and a chance to participate in discussions about the future of Stetson. All of this while networking with fellow alumni and parents. There is a nomination application process for Leadership Stetson, so if you're interested in applying, please reach out today. The Alumni Board. Some people have asked, what does the board do? The board is comprised of members representing various class years, majors, backgrounds, professions, and geographic areas. And we have new members rotating onto the board each year. The mission of the board is to promote and develop enduring relationships between alumni and the university while fostering loyalty and philanthropic support. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this evening. I'd like to introduce Tara Hamilton, Executive Director of University Initiatives.
Thank you, Ronelle. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad you're here with us tonight. I'm excited to briefly share some good news, and we all need that right now, as it relates to our recent fundraising success. Around this time last year, we were celebrating the completion of our 7-year Beyond Success to Significance campaign. We raised over $218 million, which vastly exceeded our $200 million goal. It was really something to celebrate. Now I'm just going to mention a few of the most recent highlights that our generous donors helped us to accomplish. During the campaign, we received the single largest gift in Stetson history. It was $18 million for the new C.C. and Hyatt Brown Hall for Health and Innovation. These are a couple of renderings you see on the screen of the new building that will sit adjacent to Sage Hall. The Carlton Union building was beautifully renovated and expanded by 40%. I think the Cub is a wonderful example of how we blended our historical architecture with modern design to meet the needs of today's students. And if you're wondering if that's a water feature behind the Cub you see in the upper left-hand corner, you're correct. Troy and Sissy Templeton made this colorful fountain possible. Now, I've heard some people who refer to it as a splash pad rather than a fountain, but either way, it looks very inviting on a hot summer day. We endowed the Edmonds Scholarship Program, which is our prestigious full-ride academic scholarship. Donors also endowed our joint College of Law and undergraduate civil rights travel course. This is where students actually meet and walk in the footsteps of the Freedom Riders. We also enhanced our Jewish campus community with the dedication of the newly remodeled Jeffrey and Diane Ginsburg Hillel House. The campaign also raised $18.8 million for Stetson athletics, including the new athletic training center and the addition of beach volleyball, lacrosse, and the return of Hatter football. The Sandra Stetson Aquatic Center was made possible by John B. Stetson's granddaughter and is home to the Institute for Water and Environmental Resilience, as well as our men's and women's rowing teams. And speaking of John B. Stetson, he now resides in the heart of campus thanks to another gift from the Templetons. It's the perfect place for a photo op while you're visiting campus, or of course, a selfie. And finally, over the past several months, we asked Hatter Nation to support our students most affected by the pandemic. Between the law and the DeLand campuses, donors large and small, as well as private foundations, have given over $644,000 in just a few months. For that, we say thank you, and hats off to you, Hatters. We would not be the university we are today without the support of all of you. As we look beyond the challenges of this year, we know affordability and access will be top of mind for students and families. So we hope you will continue supporting student scholarships as well as the Stetson Fund. And if you are able, please consider another gift to one of our COVID student emergency funds. Thank you again for your continued support. We look forward to see you again in person next time very soon. And now I am going to turn it back over to our president, Dr. Roelke.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a few brief remarks with the help of a few slides in a moment, and then we really want to get to, I think, the heart of these alumni meet and greets, which is to have the opportunity for you to ask any questions that might be on your mind, and I'll try to give you as candid a set of answers as possible. I mentioned before that we are in fact confronting a once-in-a-century set of challenges, and Stetson is meeting those challenges. I just wanted to review a few of them. We're all certainly aware of the global pandemic. And when I became the president on July 1st, Florida was at that time the epicenter of the pandemic in the United States. And we frankly were not sure if we were going to be able to open up our gates, so to speak, to our students in ways that we would hope to be able to do. I'm pleased to report that we have been able to do that. And despite the challenges associated with COVID, we are moving our community forward. In addition, a significant time of racial unrest with lots and lots of concerns around the globe, and certainly in the United States, and right here in Volusia County, and right here in DeLand, and also in Gulfport, concerns around racial justice. And we also regretfully had on the DeLand campus the passing of a beloved faculty member, Gregory Sapp, who died unexpectedly in the middle of our semester. So this has been really quite an extraordinary ride for your new president, and certainly for our community. But as I said earlier, this is a community that when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and Hatters step up to the plate. And that's certainly been the case that I've experienced here at Stetson. I've been describing publicly Stetson, the Stetson community, as scrappy, tenacious, resilient, caring, and innovative. And I think all those qualities, and I hope this resonates with our alums out there and other friends of the university, that those are characteristics that I think are demonstrable strengths of Stetson. Although I began this presidency on July 1st, 2020, I was privileged enough to, since the pandemic hit, to be deeply engaged with the Stetson University community as early as February. Although I was living in New York at that time, I was invited by Wendy Libby, President Emerita Wendy Libby, to join the senior team discussions and to meet with students and with faculty to think through how it was we could respond to this unprecedented context in higher education and an unprecedented context for Stetson. So I felt very fortunate as an incoming president that I was invited in to be a participant, a stakeholder, if you will, in many of the robust discussions and planning sessions that took place to prepare for the fall, not only get through the spring 2020 semester, but also prepare fully for the fall 2020 semester. A very immersive experience for me, and I think the results we should be very, very proud of. We made a couple of critical decisions about the fall semester. The first was we were going to highlight the themes at Stetson of kindness, of empathy, and of agency. Because when going gets tough, those characteristics are critical to help a community plow through. Kindness, again, drawing on one of my introductory remarks to the Stetson University community, that kindness not only matters, it enables us to listen, to engage with others unlike ourselves, and to consider paths we can forge together to make our community, in fact, the world, a better place. And I'm so pleased to report that the communities here have, in fact, embraced those themes to the fullest. With regard to agency, we made the critical decision in the middle of the summer to allow students to make a choice as to whether or not they could engage with us online, in person, or in some hybrid format. We also afforded faculty the opportunity to determine what kind of pedagogical approach they could take, given the global pandemic, in some ways unleashing their creativity and their innovation. And that concept of agency was very well received at that time. And I think it's one of the reasons why we are successful so far this fall. The other critical decision was we went to single occupancy residential living. That was a major decision that frankly cost us about $4 million because we do rely heavily on room and board fees to balance our budget. But I believe I'm absolutely certain that it was the right decision because as expected, when students first arrived in the fall, we did have a bit of a spike in the transmission of COVID-19. But because we had single occupancy, we were able to safely and fully isolate those students that were unfortunately testing positive in those early days. Since then, our transmission rates have been tremendously low, much better than expected. However, we are not counting our chickens before they're hatched because Florida has reopened fully. We are anticipating perhaps potentially another a spike, but we feel much better prepared than we did certainly back in February when we were contemplating this context about how to manage the mitigation of the transmission, mitigate the transmission of COVID-19. I also need to do a huge shout out to our faculty, to our students, and to our staff. First, the faculty for, again, thinking creatively about how to deliver the very best of a Stetson education under very trying circumstances. Our staff who have worked tirelessly to re-equip our classrooms with the technology needed to deliver the instruction that we want to provide, doing extra cleanings throughout the day to make sure our community is healthy and safe. And our students. Our students have been extraordinarily compliant with a new world here. They are doing mask wearing. They are, in fact, washing their hands regularly for at least 20 seconds, multiple times a day. They are watching their distance and they are watching their crowd size. That is not easy to do when you're primarily between the ages of 18 and 22. It's a long time ago for me to remember those days, but I know I couldn't sit still. And so I really do commend our students. And I'd like to tell you a quick story that I have a tent pitched outside the president's home here on the president's lawn, again, because being outdoors is typically much more safe than being indoors in enclosed environments. And so several classes are actually taking place right outside the house here. And I always make an effort to stop by when a class is happening, not to interrupt them, but just to welcome them to the home and to the property and to introduce myself to them. Each time I'm there, it's quite amazing to me where they, as if I was the only decider on this, they thank me for welcoming them back onto campus. In other words, they were so eager to get back here and so happy to be back here that they wanted to express their gratitude that we did try to pull this off of being face-to-face, at least in some capacity. And I just think that's wonderful. In fact, when we went to single occupancy, we were wondering if we were going to be able to fill the 1,600 beds that we have because Florida was the epicenter of the pandemic at that time, at least in the United States. And we had a wait list of over 300 people wanting to be on campus. To me, that speaks volumes about a Stetson education. So then we scrambled and hustled and got local area hotels to negotiate reasonable room rates for us. And so for the first few months, we had many students that wanted very much to be in DeLand who were either at the Marriott or the Hampton Inn. And and also that provided us with some additional isolation rooms if we needed. Long story short, it's been a complex design problem, but the Stetson community has really stepped up to meet the challenges of that design problem, and I couldn't be more proud. As I mentioned before, we're in an environment with considerable energy, amplification, dedication to promoting racial justice. We certainly have confronted those challenges right here on campus. Some of you may have received my campus communication from a week or so ago, where we had some very painful and hurtful imagery that was sent around on social media. And we have, again, tried to deal with that humanely, kindly, with empathy, and also trying to move our institution forward. Those conversations are certainly ongoing and have been amplified in part by the second iteration of the Campus Climate Survey. This is the second iteration. The first was in 2016, where we try to get a sense of how people are experiencing our campuses, both at the College of Law and here in DeLand, and really to get their input on, are we in fact meeting our mission of being an inclusive and welcoming environment for all students from all different kinds of backgrounds. Similarly, are we providing a workplace that is in fact inclusive and promotes diversity in all its best forms? So that work is ongoing. Please stay tuned on that. We are having robust discussions on all of our campuses, and we're rolling out, I think, we'll soon be rolling out a strategic vision for how we can, again, move the institution forward on these important metrics. I mentioned the $4 million reduction in our revenue that took place because of our choice for public health reasons to go to single occupancy. Again, the right decision. But we also, of course, in the uncertainty of COVID with regard to enrollment and other factors, including the ability to bring in our much beloved international students in a global pandemic, the board did approve a budget that was roughly $16.5 million less than anticipated. That required some considerable sacrifice on the part of people that work and study at Stetson, including a freeze on salary enhancements. In fact, a reduction in salary that took place for senior leaders starting in July and was projected to start on September 1st for everyone around the university. And also retirement contributions brought to zero for the 2021 academic year. Those are painful sacrifices, particularly in a time when people are working 60, 70 hours a week to try to, again, advance a Stetson education. I'm delighted to report that because we have performed better than expected, both in terms of enrollment and in particular, a bit of a surprise in terms of a larger than expected boost in enrollment in our graduate programs and at the College of Law, we were able to postpone the salary reductions that were supposed to take place on September 1st. That was very much a morale booster for the members of our community that are working so hard. However, that amount is not enough to preclude us from having to have this TIA-CREF retirement contribution that still remains at zero. So needless to say, coming in as a new president with a $16+ million reduction in the anticipated budget was not something that I had foreseen, but I will say this, that the community understood the challenge. As difficult as those decisions were, again, Hatters have stepped up to the challenge because they want to see the very best of a Stetson education move forward. This is going to seem like an overly simplistic response to 2021 priorities, but it's really, I believe, the right thing. We're going to continue to push the themes of kindness, empathy, and agency, and we are laser focused on keeping our communities healthy and safe, while all at the same time trying to provide the very best of a Stetson education under very unusual circumstances. We're already planning for the spring 21 semester, hoping to have much more face-to-face interaction if the public health context permits. But again, those are our simple priorities for this year, 2021. Certainly, there are lots and lots of future opportunities that Stetson has in front of it. You saw a slide earlier of the very exciting project, the most ambitious capital project that Stetson University has ever undertaken, which is the C.C. and Hyatt Brown Hall of Science and Innovation. We are hoping to put a spade in the ground on that in May. There are going to be lots and lots of other support opportunities for that project. Again, an $18 million gift, the single largest gift in Stetson's history. But as you can imagine, having first-rate science facilities and preparing students for the health professions and other great opportunities beyond Stetson, that's an expensive set of facilities. And there are lots and lots of opportunities to help support that effort if you're so willing. I also mentioned the Campus Climate Survey. This is both the present and future opportunity. As our society becomes increasingly diverse, a future opportunity persists for Stetson, which is how do we expand the footprint of Stetson beyond the Southeast? And what I mean by that is that we have roughly 7 out of 10 of our students that come to us from Florida, which is wonderful. But in terms of the longer term sustainability of Stetson University and the longer term excellence of Stetson University, we're going to want to devote ourselves to broadening the geographic footprint of Stetson University. So I think that concludes the slide presentation. I probably talked too long, but I'm delighted to report that we do have 25 minutes or left or so to do the Q&A. Rena, thank you very much for serving as moderator.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Rolke, for your steady, dynamic leadership. You've really been leading us beautifully, and we're grateful. All right, so folks, it is time for the question and answer period, the best part of the night. I want to remind you that you can submit questions in the text box. Please go ahead and submit those. We're going to start with the questions that were submitted to us when you registered. So let's get started. First of all, this is a really good question. I was excited that it came in. So you talked a lot about Stetson. This person who submitted this question wants to know a little bit about you personally and your family and how they're doing. And do you have any pets that come with your family?
How much time do we have, Rena?
30 minutes, a little less.
Thank you for the very generous question. I'm coming to Stetson after 21 years as a faculty member and dean of the college at Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm a very proud father of 3 daughters. Emma Rolke is just turned 26 last week. She is a second-year medical student at NYU Long Island School of Medicine. Julia is 23 years old and is a second-year science teacher and sustainability fellow and basketball coach in Westport, Connecticut. And my youngest daughter, Olivia, is finishing up high school in New York. She also just had a birthday in September. And by the way, just got her learner's permit in New York just a few hours ago. Herein lies, my wife and my youngest daughter are not with me yet here in DeLand. Part of that is pandemic related, but mostly driven by the fact that my daughter is still finishing up high school. And we didn't think it was appropriate to have her come down or fruitful to have her come in the middle of her high school experience. Yes, we do have animals, and that's because my wife, Kim, is a small animal surgeon with a practice in Millbrook, New York, which she has just sold in preparation for her move to DeLand. So we do have animals. Currently, we've got 2 dogs. We've got 2 cats. We have 2 horses that don't live on our property but are boarded elsewhere. And we have a hamster, some fish. And I almost tried to sneak our newest addition, which was one of our dogs, into the truck on the way down here because he's just an adorable, severely visually impaired golden retriever, but he's a delicious animal, a wonderful animal. So anyway, that's the rundown. Did I answer the question?
You did, how they're doing and how they're adjusting. So the adjustment is a little bit delayed to Florida, but
Right.
that's great. Okay, great. So our next question that came in during registration was just a little outlook on the fall semester, enrollment numbers, class size, how you feel the institution is doing financially. You talked a little bit about that in your slides, but if you could give a bit of an update on enrollment.
Sure. Delighted to provide a report, and I'm not going to give you the specific numbers because I can't recall them off the top of my head, but I do know that both our retention and our first time in college numbers, that is first entry into college numbers, far exceeded what we expected in a COVID-19 environment. We were projecting 15% reductions just based on what we were reading and what we were understanding of the climate. On the undergraduate level, I think we saw a melt of about 7 or 8%, which again is much more favorable than twice that number. And those enrollment numbers were offset by a spike in enrollment at the graduate school level. So again, the reason we were able to postpone the salary reductions was because we had an unexpected growth in graduate enrollment. So our enrollments are robust. We are anxiously awaiting, again, not only our spring enrollment numbers and our spring census, but also our next incoming class. It's going to be interesting to see the kinds of decisions that families and young people make, again, during this unprecedented time. We're not alone in that. Many of our peers had much larger dips in enrollment and are certainly feeling the pain associated with those dips. But Stetson has performed well with regard to enrollment. With regard to the fall, again, I mentioned before that we did have a little bit of a spike in transmission of the virus early on, but we were very well prepared to manage that, and delighted to report that thus far we have not had serious illness associated with it. We did have one, just to be transparent, we did have one student who had some shortness of breath that went to the hospital, but was immediately sent home back here onto campus because the symptoms could be treated here on campus. Now, again, I can't promise that that's going to be the case throughout, but so far so good. And again, I commend all the faculty, staff, students, and health providers for providing such great care.
Absolutely. We're all very proud of the way Stetson handled this. It was very impressive. So that kind of bridges into the next question. How has the university been bridging the potential gap for students to build mentoring relationships with professors and instructions that may have been best developed from in-person learning?
It's a great question, and we're actually learning more and more each day as we continue to navigate this terrain. We are trying to do as many innovative and creative ways to virtually engage our students. We're starting to see on campus, again, partly because of the use of tents and other outdoor spaces, creative ways to interact with one another. Here's where alumni, I think, later on down the road can also be very, very helpful in terms of virtual mentorships. One of the challenges certainly lying ahead for those that are about to graduate is a very uncertain job market. And also one of Stetson's tremendous strengths, and one of the things that frankly really attracted me to Stetson, was its long and rich history with regard to community-based learning and experiential learning. Needless to say, that has been jeopardized to a great extent because of COVID-19, right? So the kinds of internships that students might do in local area schools, local area hospitals, shadowing someone in a business, a small business, entrepreneurship work, a lot of that experiential learning has been modified and frankly is insufficient for what we want to do in terms of preparing our students for life after Stetson. So again, I think this is a learning environment. I think we've performed well in there, but we are hearing from students, and I don't mean to be shy about this at all, this isn't quite the same, right? Yeah. This isn't the same. We're missing a few notes, if you will, in terms of their expectations. And again, I think that speaks volumes to the kind of education we do afford. They know what it's like and they miss it, and Absolutely. They miss it.
Absolutely. There's a little bit of that mourning, I think, that we've been in the whole country, that we've lost that personal connection. But I'm with you that the faculty have done a really terrific job in some of these really engaging new techniques and technologies that they're using to make those connections. Next question is about the library and how the library is handled during the COVID restrictions with limits to the amount of students that can go in and use the facility. How does that work?
Sure. Some alums may know our dean of the library is Sue Ryan, and talk about an innovative space. When I first arrived on campus, I was given several gifts from the library. One was a laser print image of John B. Stetson, who, by the way, was born in the same city that I was, Orange, New Jersey. I received a mask, DuPont Ball Library mask that said president on the side that they crafted and made right there. They gave me a laser printed a 3D printed bust of John B. Stetson. I mean, that is really a hub of innovation at Stetson. And that too is a loss because the kind of wonderful, calm, but also chaotic vibrancy of the library has been missed this semester. We've been managing that through some very creative, how do I say, staggered schedules for people to be in the library. It is an intellectual hub, an innovation hub for the university, and the regular routines are sorely missed. But I give the library staff and also certainly the dean, Sue Ryan, tremendous credit for thinking creatively. There also is a tent pitched right outside the DuPont library, so that there is an opportunity to, again, get outside and not spend more than 2.5 hours or 3 hours inside. You want to move in and out as much as you can to get fresh air, et cetera. Even though, of course, we put in all the ventilation improvements, et cetera, that were required because of COVID-19.
Absolutely. I also think that the folks in the Student Success Center have done a tremendous job within the library of offering those services virtually, and a lot of our students are responding, and the usage might even be higher because we're in the platform that students are really used to. So
no,
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Rena, because we've been talking a lot about racial justice, and I've had the opportunity to engage with so many students virtually, whereas maybe in-person meetings would have been more difficult to pull off. I've been able to reach a much larger audience virtually. Again, not quite the same, but in terms of the volumes of students that I'm able to meet with, that's actually been enhanced.
Absolutely. Okay, the next question. Do you have any idea about the schedule for the spring semester? Also, whether you will continue with single occupancy residence halls?
I regret that I'm not able to give the audience members on this call a precise answer to that. Those discussions are ongoing as we speak. In fact, just today, we have what we call our operations meeting, and the faculty and student leadership and certainly the provost's office are working diligently to think through a schedule that is both attentive to the pandemic context, but also attentive to the needs of our students. As you're probably aware, we truncated our schedule a little bit this fall. We do plan to end face-to-face interactions on or about Thanksgiving. Again, with the effort to not, then students could go home, complete whatever lingering assignments they might have, and then allow them to see their families and not come back. So we are contemplating similar kinds of things for the spring, but we have not come to conclusion yet. Those conversations are ongoing. I will say this, we've been talking about sort of this dial of instruction where, with full tilt would be everything is face-to-face, right? Turn the dial the other way, everything is virtual. Well, we're somewhere in the middle right now with about 56% of our courses are being taught virtually or in a hybrid format with about 44% face-to-face. Needless to say, given the hatters that are out there, you realize we're eager to turn that dial with more face-to-face interactions for the spring. We are keeping our fingers crossed that the public health context will permit that and we can get closer to normalcy.
Excellent. Any word or thoughts on the single residency occupancy in residence halls?
Thank you.
Sure.
No, that's still, no, thank you for reminding me that there were two parts to the question.
Of course.
Again, no conclusions yet on the single occupancy. I will say this, that we do have a couple of situations on campus, siblings, for example, that are in fact in double occupancy, but that's a very small number. It would be wonderful if we'd be able to open up the campus in a more robust way for residentiality. If there's one thing we're learning is that how important that component is, certainly on the DeLand campus, the residentiality and the learning that goes on way beyond the classroom. I would love to be able to be in a position to welcome more students back on campus, but that's a wait and see. I'm sorry, I don't have an update for you at this moment.
It's one of those areas that COVID actually accentuates and highlights, is that on-campus learning element and how important our residential campus is. And that actually leads into our next question. As you consider what higher ed, including Stetson, looks like post-pandemic, what COVID-related changes do you envision will continue? In another way to say it, what are some of the positive pieces that this COVID disruption has brought about to the way we work and live?
Sure. I mean, I think there have been some, for lack of a better term, efficiencies that have been learned through this need to be virtual. I certainly have found that in my own work. I think I mentioned a moment ago that I'm able to reach more people in a shorter amount of time than if I'm in a car or if I'm in a plane or a train to go meet someone. I'm able to meet a larger group virtually. So a lot of efficiencies on travel time, I think, have happened. I also think our faculty are learning that there are, in fact, parts of their content of their courses that can be delivered in a way in which students can actually be exposed to the material on their own time, as opposed to being in the classroom itself to be the recipient of that content. We had certainly already knew that before, but I think we're now seeing that it actually can work. So I think that some of these things will in fact carry through. Is there some content that can be delivered in a virtual format so as to provide more opportunity when you are face-to-face for that kind of intellectual intimacy that faculty and students have enjoyed for generations at Stetson, whether it be collaborating on a research project, an action research project in the community. So I think the whole notion of content delivery is a really set of interesting pedagogical questions and frankly, affirmations that have occurred during COVID-19. And I would not be surprised if higher ed more broadly and if Stetson specifically embrace some of those learnings moving forward.
Excellent, very good. All right, next question is, were there any budget implications for student activities?
That's a great question. We are seeing some, as you probably know, the Student Activities Fund is really operated by the students themselves. The student fee is collected and then the student organizations themselves work through that. Everyone on the administrative side and every staff, everybody made cuts on their operational side. However, given the pandemic, a lot of those activities could not occur anyway. Yep. Right? So the travel costs associated with fall sports competitions, right? Although, we certainly had to cut those expenses because we weren't going to use that. Even moving forward in the spring where we do hope to compete, we're looking at more regional competition as opposed to getting on a plane, staying overnight, et cetera. Even our wonderful baseball team is thinking of regional competitions as opposed to across the country for public health reasons. So there have been reductions in expenses associated with our typical activities. It has been a challenge to keep our students engaged. You may have been reading around about the concerns about isolation, right? That the young people are feeling isolated, concerns about mental health, concerns about social connectivity. We're continuing to try to plow through that and trying to provide as many engaging opportunities as possible. We even talked about having an ice cream social here under the president's tent where we could take 5 at a time that could come under the tent and have some ice cream, those kinds of things. There's been, believe it or not, there's been virtual art classes that have taken place. There's been, virtual parties that have taken place. But I would be not telling you the truth if I said that this was perfect. We are still learning, and there are, I'm sure, new things that will emerge moving forward.
Absolutely. So that touches on the next question, and we have an alumna who is on the line, and I think it's an alum, and their daughter is a Stetson student. So we love our legacies. Thank you all for believing in Stetson. And right now, the daughter is scheduled for all virtual classes. Is there some hope that some of them may switch to in-person based now to the spring semester?
Yes. I hope this is helpful and gives you some optimism about that. You may recall that we really didn't even know and could not announce how we were going to deliver instruction until about 10 days before students were supposed to come back to campus, because things in the pandemic were moving so rapidly. And we were changing literally daily our planning and our thought processes. Same is true now. The pandemic is still with us. We monitor the public health data daily. We monitor our communities' health daily. And certainly we hope that those classes could be, or at least a portion of them, could be made face-to-face.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're all yearning for. So we have a question here about our fraternities and sororities. How was fraternity and sorority recruitment handled this year?
I think that's ongoing. I have to confess, I don't know all the details of that recruitment process.
I can jump in on it too.
Yeah, I did learn as a candidate, and it certainly has been reaffirmed here, that there is a vibrant Greek life on Stetson's campus. Yet there are still ongoing discussions about things like fraternities that have some people in them that are not members of that fraternity because of the whole heads and beds equation that must take place, right? So I know that there were discussions that were begun last spring about sort of the future of Greek life and how can we make it more inclusive and aligned with student interest. A lot of those conversations have been postponed in part because of COVID. But there is a vibrant Greek life on campus, and we are interested in how we can move that forward in creative and thoughtful ways. Particularly on the fraternity side, less so on the sorority side in terms of that heads and beds problem.
Yep. I'm on the Greek Life Advisory Board, Fraternity and Sorority Life Advisory Board, and recruitment this year was virtual, and all of the sororities hit quota. And the fraternity men just finished theirs last week, and it worked well. It was not the same as in person, but we're pleased with how it handled, because that was an important element of these students finding their people, right? As well as other student organizations. And all of that has been virtual this year. And it's been fun to watch students find their tribe through online programs. So it actually went very well. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Yes.
I just wanted to add one more thing on that, which I think is important for the audience to hear, is that in the data analyses that we've done with regard to retaining students at Stetson, that is, they enroll and then they stay for the 4 years, there's an interesting correlation between sorority and fraternity affiliation and that retention number. So something's going on there that's very positive, right? Which is, I think you said tribe. I think you use the word tribe.
Yep.
There is something about being engaged in part of a community that works that's associated with that. I'd like to learn more about how that plays out at Stetson, because fraternities and sorority students that choose a fraternity or sorority have proven to stay and be retained on a more regular basis than those that do not. So it's a very interesting thing to look at.
Absolutely. And it's similar with our student athletes, which
Right.
is, yes. Okay, so what are your top 3 priorities during your tenure at Stetson, if you have those set yet? That's from Dave from the class of 1959 in biology.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Well, I already mentioned one, which is short term, but it also should be longer term too, which is that we should be laser focused on the health and safety of our students. And when I say health and safety, I also mean psychological safety. I also mean safety that you feel like you can take risks when you're here, intellectual risks when you're here. I also mean safety in the sense that you can come to Stetson and be yourself. You're going to want to be pushed, certainly, and you might be transformed by a Stetson education, but that you can bring your full self. So when I think about health and safety, I'm not just talking about COVID, right? I'm also talking about this being a community where you feel safe psychologically, socially, et cetera. Needless to say, that's very much connected to our goals of inclusion and diversity. Longer term, I mentioned another one too. I do think that Stetson, it would be very good for Stetson to expand its geographic footprint. This is not at all to suggest that the Florida students we get are not fabulous. They are. But I think for our longer term sustainability and excellence, we're going to want to have a broader geographic footprint. I'd also like us at Stetson to become much more financially robust. And what I mean by that is that we have very fortunately grown Stetson's endowment to now over $300 million, which is a big number and a number we should be proud of. But it is also a number that is on a per pupil basis, not as strong as it needs to be for longer term innovation, longer term weathering of a storm like a COVID, right? The board was very generous to allow us to draw 6% from the endowment this year, since we were in a crisis situation. That is not sustainable. You can't draw 6% from the endowment every year. You want to be between the 4.5% or 5% draw. And you also want that base to be larger, so that 4.5% to 5% actually is a number that can actually leverage some change and some enhancements. So those are the ones that come to my mind off the top of my head. I also would like to say this to the very generous question, is that I really believe strongly that kind of strategic vision and strategic priorities, they're best established collaboratively and not by a single appointed leader. And so that is not to punt on the question. I'm not punting and avoiding the question, simply saying that I'm engaged in a process that's very robust to get community input on what those strategic priorities are moving forward. So I hope that's an adequate answer to the question. Health, safety, inclusivity, community building, and certainly the financial sustainability is a key part. I'll say one more, but it's really more longer term because I know that this takes time. Having experienced it during my time at Vassar, I do want to be certain that Stetson's curriculum is attentive to the contemporary demands of society. And so I've been talking on campus a lot about the modernization of the liberal arts. That is, you need to have a core, strong liberal arts education, but you also need to have pragmatically some skills that are going to allow you to compete in the marketplace, right? Well, the curriculum ought to be attentive to that, right? It ought to be attentive to that tension between a robust traditional liberal arts education and the demands of the marketplace. And I think Stetson has made great progress in that regard, but I'd like to leverage additional thoughts about the curriculum moving forward. That takes time. So
Yeah.
we're not going to get that done in 3 months. That's going to take some time. The faculty are going to want to be deeply engaged in that. Our students are going to be engaged in that, the board, et cetera. But that certainly is one of the things that appealed to me about Stetson as a candidate was I saw great potential here to, again, bridge any perceived or real gaps between theory and practice.
Excellent.
And real potential and real strengths in the area of experiential learning so that our students are applying what it is they're learning in the classroom to solve real world problems. Stetson has a great track record on that. And I think that's where the future of higher education lies, is getting students to think in interdisciplinary ways that in fact embrace theory to solve critical problems, solve problems across difference. So again, that was much more long-winded answer than I anticipated, but those are the things that are certainly on my mind. And I think frankly, some of the reasons why I was hired.
That was really good. And I have to say that your inclusive leadership style is resonating and it's
Good.
working. So we
Good.
appreciate that. We are at 7 o'clock. I did want to mention one thing, that the pictures that went through our slideshow, many of those pictures were taken pre-COVID. So you don't see face coverings in those pictures. So I just wanted to acknowledge those were taken pre-COVID. And then I do want to ask you one more question, Dr. Roelke. What are you doing for fun in your free time, if you have any free time?
There hasn't been a whole lot, frankly, of free time, but I'm not resenting it at all because I'm so energized by the challenges and opportunities that are ahead of us. But I don't know if you can see, I'm at the President's house now. This is the 418 North Woodland Boulevard. And since my wife isn't with me at the moment and will be soon, I've been making all the sort of interior decorating decisions for the house. And I have to say that's been great therapy to pick out a paint color, to figure out where should that sculpture that we bought at the Arts and Crafts Fair in 1972, where should that go? That's been an awful lot of fun. And I've also gotten through that process of painting and other things, gotten to know our wonderful tradespeople at Stetson. They do an extraordinary job. And so that's what I've been doing for fun. In normal situation, I'd be out competing in something, whether it be a pickup basketball game, a game of hardball or baseball or softball, golf. I'd be outdoors a lot, throwing the football around with my kids. That stuff hasn't been possible, at least not in abundance, but I look forward to those days when they return.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Stetson Hatters, for joining us tonight. Thank you for everything you do for Stetson. We love you. Have a good night. Thanks,
Thank
Dr.
you, everyone. Go Hatters.
Go Hatters.